Hello, English 2 students, and welcome to day 3, the final day of us reading The Crucible by Arthur Miller. So here's kind of the things that we talked about in this final day of reading Act 3. Keep in mind that we are looking for the climax of the story. So I'm not going to talk about Gustav Freytag and all that fun stuff, but the climax essentially is the turning point. Climax is the fancy word for turning point. What is the point of the story which caused the greatest amount of change, the greatest amount of turmoil? Those are the things that we're kind of looking at. Like the story is one way, and then all of a sudden it is drastically a different story. That is the climax. That is the turning point. It's where the story takes a pivot. It's where the story takes a turn. It's where we reach the point of no return. The roller coaster is all the way up at the apex and drops, and we can't go back to the way things were. That's what we're looking for climax. So we're going to be starting off on page 1307. That's where we started off today. It's page 17 in the PDF. So here's kind of where we left off. Okay, so to kind of set the scene, we start off with Danforth over here. Abigail, I bid you now, search your heart and tell me this, and beware of it, child. To God, every soul is precious, and his vengeance is terrible on them to take life without cause. It is possible, child, that the spirits that you have seen are illusions only, some deception that may cross your mind when, why, this is a base question, sir. Child, I would have you consider it. I have been hurt, Mr. Danforth. I have seen my blood running out. I have been near murder every day because I've done my duty pointing out the devil's people. And this is my reward, to be mistrusted, denied, questioned like a child. I do not mistrust you. Let you beware, Mr. Danforth. Think to you be so mighty that the power of hell might turn your wits. Beware that there's an accusatory attitude in her face. Turns, looking into the air above, truly frightened. That's where we left off yesterday. And so she's kind of staring at the sky, and we begin to see Abigail Williams. In fact, here's what it basically says. Looking about the air, clasping her arms as though she were cold. I know not, a cold wind has come. Her eyes fall on Mary Warren. So basically, and if you notice, Mercy Lewis pops in, Suzanne Walcott, and they're saying, I freeze, I freeze, I freeze, whenever Abigail starts pretending she's cold. It seems almost like, oh, Father of Heaven, take away the shadow. They're pretending Mercy Lewis is a witch. So we have a change kind of begin to occur. Then we begin to, so Abby is pretending that she's being bewitched by Mercy Lewis, and we begin to see something finally snap right here with John Proctor. John Proctor finally breaks, and he gets his usher on right here. That's an antiquated reference because he's confessed. John Proctor finally snaps, and John Proctor finally confesses here on page 13. I come out of full screen because I want to talk to y'all about this real quick. Let's talk about character development, okay? Character development is very similar to the plot, where a plot, you have the climaxes, which is the turning point of the story. Character development works something along the lines of this. You have the character, and they're acting one way before at the beginning of the story. So you have a character, and they're acting one way before, but then something happens, an event happens, and that event forces the character to change. That change is what we call character development. This is how the character develops. Like they start one way, something happens to them, and that something changes them. That is what character development is. And what we did right here is just saw character development. The character development is in John Proctor. Before all of this started, John Proctor would not admit that he was having an affair. He was keeping it secret. But now he has seen Abigail Williams at work, like live with his own eyes. He sees Abigail Williams doing this, and that event, the seeing of Abigail doing that, is the thing that changes him to admit, to confess. And basically, bam, right here is John Proctor getting on his best usher performance. We begin to see a back and forth between Abigail and Danforth as well, and Danforth finally decides to do this. He calls for Goody Proctor, and here on page 1310, on page 20 of the PDF, he says this. He calls her Elizabeth Proctor and says, "Good then," to Abigail. "And if she tell me, child, it were for harlotry, may God spread his mercy on you." There's a knock, and he calls to the door. "Hold," to Abigail. Turn your back to Proctor. "Do likewise." Both turn their backs. Abigail with indignant slowness. Now let either of you turn your face, Goody Proctor. No one in this room speak one word or raise a gesture, aye or nay. He towards the door and calls, "Enter." The door opens. Elizabeth enters with Paris. Paris leaves her. She's alone. Her eyes look to Proctor. "Mr. Cheever, report this testimony in all exactness as you are ready." So basically what they're doing is they are, actually I'll pause for a second and think, what is Forth doing? And is going to puts all the into Elizabeth Proctor's hands. If Elizabeth Proctor says, "Yes, Abigail is a W word," as my fifth I like to say, that all this upside down, all 400 people in jail, which is because the main witness has a major flaw, and we have discovered the reason behind all this crying of which. But here's the thing. Elizabeth Proctor has no idea what's been going on. She hasn't been outside in front of the court. They bring her out. She has no idea what's going on, and they're asking her husband if he has committed adultery, which is a crime just as serious as witchcraft. So in his mind, I'm already in jail. Keep in mind what Elizabeth Proctor and John Proctor both have. And that's whenever we have this ultimatum test begin to flesh out. Here's an interesting thing. I had this real seventh hour, but she talks about, "I were a long time sick after my last." This is Elizabeth Proctor. So the thing that led to Proctor having an affair with Abigail Williams was actually what? If you think about it, when there were people sick after a baby, postpartum depression. Postpartum depression was the thing that drove John Proctor to commit adultery on his wife. So it's an interesting wrinkle that I've never clicked into my head until just now reading this. So we have the back and forth, and Elizabeth Proctor says no. Why does she no? Whenever she could solve all this, if she just said yes, she says no. Why? She's afraid of her children. If she said yes, then both her and her husband would be in jail. Her children would be orphans. So she says no, and they remove her. And if we do not, and she had no idea that she said yes, everything would have been solved. She was trying to save her husband, which is interesting considering if you think back to Act 2, the one thing that John Proctor wanted more than anything was for her wife to forgive him. And in a way, it kind of happened, but at what cost? At what cost? Speaking of character development, we have character development happen here with Mr. Hell. In fact, Mr. Hell has one of the more interesting arcs in character development. Ecstasy is a natural lie to tell, I beg you. Stop now before another is condemned. I may shut my conscience to it no more. Private vengeance through this testimony. From the beginning, this man has struck me true. By my oath to heaven, I believe him now. And I pray you call his wife back before she spoke nothing of lechery. This man lied. I believe him, pointing to Abigail. This girl has always struck me false. She has. So John Proctor in Hell, who started off this play 100% on board with witchcraft, is now what? What caused the change? What caused this change in Reverend Hell? Once again, there's an event that happens. Something happens that causes the character to develop, that causes the character to change. And we see that with Reverend Hell in these last couple pages. He was one way before, and you could see a clear difference how he was acting before the event and how he was acting after the event. All right, then we go back to Mary Warren bewitching the girls, and it's a very fantastic scene. There's a bird and everything. It's talking about ripping out Abigail's face and whatnot. All the girls start parroting what Mary Warren's saying, and finally Mary Warren, after all of that, finally just breaks, and she finally just snaps, and she's just like, "I can't take it anymore. I can't take it." And it's on page 13, 14. So we just have all this back and forth about these girls pretending that poor Mary Warren is bewitching them. In fact, at one point, here's the point, and here's once again one of those events where we see the drastic change. This is Abigail. Abigail looking up. Look out, she's coming down. She and all the girls run to one wall, shielding their eyes, and now, as though cornered, they let out a gigantic scream. Ah! And Mary, as though infected, opened her mouth and screamed. Ah! Gradually, Abigail and the girls leave off until only Mary is left there, staring up at the bird, screaming madly. All watch her, horrified by the evident fit. Proctor strides to her. Mary, tell the governor what they, and he has hardly got a word out when, seeing him coming for her, she's out of his reach, screaming in horror, don't touch me, don't touch me! And at which the girls halt at the door. Mary Warren is finally done what? He bid you, you're the devil's man. He bid you do the devil work, the devil's book. He come you with a book. My name, he want my name. I'll murder you, he says, if my wife hangs. We must go overthrow the court, he says. She turns on John Proctor, which, can you blame the poor girl? The poor girl has had it from all sides. John Proctor threatened to beat her. These girls are harassing her, like pretending they're being bewitched. On top of that, they've been mean girls to her throughout this. Deputy Governor Danforth has said, you're going to jail and then you're going to hang, you're going to hang, you're going to hang. She couldn't take it anymore, and she finally gave in. She returned to being who she was. She returned because of the pressure the poor girl was put under. That poor girl. Then John Proctor himself finally just kind of gives up, and he has this one last little saying to kind of throw the hypocrisy in everybody's face. Right here on the final page, on page 25. Fire is burning. I hear the boot of Lucifer. I see his filthy face, and it is my face and yours, Danforth, for all of them that quarrel to bring men out of ignorance, as I have quelled, and as you quell now when you are all black in your hearts. This is the fraud. God damn our kind, especially when we will burn together. Kind of placing the blame on everybody. It would also have Reverend Hale say, I denounce these proceedings. I quit the court, and slammed the door on his way out. So there we go. That is Act 3, The Crucible. The question that begs to differ is, what is the climax? What was the turning point? We had a lot of character development, and that's fun, but we're going to identify the climax. Based on how you've interpreted, how you've thought about this story, the climax can be different. Like there's not just one place that you can put it. It comes down to how well you can defend your point of view, where you're thinking this climax deserves to be. And so just be sure you defend it well. There's a lot of climactic moments that you could possibly hinge this on. So just make sure you argue it well, and don't plagiarize on the internet, please. That's all I can ask, because I've caught a lot of people plagiarizing. I don't want to know the internet's thoughts. I want to know your thoughts. Tell me what you think. All right, like, you are so caught up in this idea that you have to have the right answer. I don't care about that. I want to see your thinking. I want to see your thoughts, not someone else's. That's the key. That's all I want to see. I want to interact with what you think, and you have thoughts, you can think, and I believe in all of you, and I know all of you can do this. Just share with me your thoughts, and please, please, please don't plagiarize. That's all I can ask. All right. If you have any questions, email me, pdavidson@portugal.k12.mo.us. I'll be back tomorrow to talk to you about the Act 3 prompt, which I kind of just we're talking about. All right. See you later. Bye-bye.